More than 4,000 years ago, in the heart of the Inter-area, the first civilization of mankind, the Sumerians, was emerging. They were the first to invent writing, build magnificent temples and establish the first cities. But along with the development of culture and science, they were also the first to know the horror of war. These city-states fought endless wars among themselves over land, water and influence. It was here that the first armies, the first military strategies and the first great generals emerged. What were the reasons that drove the ancient Sumerians to fight? What did their battles look like? And how did these wars change the course of history? Let's find out. At first glance, the Sumerians could have lived peacefully. Their lands were fertile and trade with neighboring civilizations flourished. But the reality turned out to be quite different. Control of water resources, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers were the main sources of life, but in dry years there wasn't enough water for everyone. Cities competed for the right to control canals and irrigation systems, and this often led to conflict. Struggle over trade routes, Sumerians traded extensively with ancient Egypt, India, and the Zagros peoples. Control of trade routes and caravans gave power and wealth, which made cities vulnerable to raids and military conquests. Political rivalry, each Sumerian city-state sought to become the center of the entire region. The power of priests and kings depended on their ability to wage wars and subdue their neighbors. Religious conflicts, each city worshipped its own patron god. Priests and rulers used religion as a justification for wars, claiming that their deity should rule over others. These factors led Sumer to become an arena of constant conflict, where warfare was an integral part of life. The Sumerians were the first in history to create an organized army. Their wars were brutal and their tactics were elaborate. Infantry, the core of the army, was made up of pikemen and archers. They fought in formation, forming dense phalanxes. Armor and shields, warriors wore copper and bronze breastplates, used large shields covered with leather, and helmets with crests. Battle wagons, the Sumerians were the first in history to use donkey-drawn wheeled wagons. They were used to transport warriors and equipment, but eventually became the forerunners of battle chariots. Siege of cities, Sumerians built strong walls and gates, so attacks were often delayed. Invaders used battering rams, ladders, and undermining to get inside fortifications. The military conflicts of the Sumerians laid the foundations for warfare for millennia to come. One of the first documented wars in history was the conflict between the cities of Lagash and Umma, which occurred around 2500 BC. The reason for the conflict was the fertile lands along the Gaden Canal. Both sides considered them their own. The leader of Lagash, Eannatum, was an ambitious ruler who was determined to subjugate the Umma once and for all. The Stela of the Kites, an ancient bas-relief depicting scenes of this war, shows Sumerian warriors marching in formation and piercing their enemies with spears. Eannatum won, and Lagash became the most powerful city in Sumer, for a time. But the Sumerians could not unite. Constant wars between the cities weakened them, and eventually they became easy prey for a powerful new ruler. In 2334 BC, Sargon the Great, ruler of Akkad, conquered all the Sumerian cities. He created the first empire in history, uniting dozens of cities under his rule. His army was revolutionary, it was made up of professional soldiers, not militia peasants. Thus ended the era of independent Sumerian cities. But even after the fall of Sumer, its legacy did not disappear. The last great Sumerian ruler was Shulgi, who tried to restore the power of civilization. He successfully repelled barbarian attacks. He built powerful walls and fortresses. But in 2004 BC, the Elamites destroyed Ur, which was the end of Sumerian civilization. Thus ended the history of the oldest civilization, but its military legacy influenced the great powers that followed, Babylon, Assyria, and Persia. The Sumerians not only created the first civilization, but also started the military history of mankind. Do you think the Sumerians could have avoided so many wars? Would they have been able to build an empire earlier than Sargon? Share your thoughts in the comments.